Joker's Wild and Season of the Drifter are just around the corner, and Bungie revealed a brand new Vidoc that is packed with a whole lot of brand new information. I'm going to break everything down and tell you all you need to know about the new season of Destiny 2 and what to expect from Joker's Wild. So here we go. Starting off, Bungie has introduced a way for players who are underleveled to jump into the new expansion right away. Newly introduced are Power Surge Bounties available from the Drifter that will level you up to 640 in about an hour or so. This means unlike grinding 10 hours of old content just to play Black Armory, you can now jump in to the new stuff right away on day 1. On March 5th, 2 brand new PvE activities unlock, the first entitled Gambit Prime, and the second being Reckoning. Gambit Prime was described in the Vidoc as the sweatier version of the Gambit experience we already play, where instead of 3 rounds, there's only 1. But that's not the only change. You'll also have the ability to drain motes from the enemy team, and when it comes to the Primeval phase, there will be much more complex mechanics required to actually damage it, similar to the type of stuff you'd see in a raid. On top of that, Bungie wants to stress the different roles of Gambit, and making those much more important than in the regular mode. So this mode is going to be much shorter, much more competitive, and demand much more skill than your usual base mode, which is very cool in my opinion because it feels like Bungie is finally starting to lean into that competitive side of PvE content. And with it being just 1 round, I think this mode will be much more fun to jump in and play a few matches and then jump out, instead of committing to what could be a half hour of just Gambit. 2 new maps are arriving for Gambit, the first being New Arcadia, set on Mars, which will be released on the 5th, alongside the base Gambit private matches, which both these things, by the way, are actually free if you own Forsaken. You don't need to have the annual pass for either of those things. The base Gambit mode will be available in private matches at first, with the Gambit Prime mode arriving later down the line if you own the annual pass. Once you finish your very first Gambit Prime match on day 1, you'll get access to the new PvE endgame activity called Reckoning, which takes place inside the Drifter's giant darkness ice ball. It's a huge open raid-like space reminiscent of the 3rd Spire location from Trials of the Nine. The entrance immediately gives me that Crota Zen vibe, which is something they even mentioned in the Vidoc.
You're getting attacked from all directions.
Think the Crota raid from D1.
At first you get access to Tier 1 of Reckoning, but over time levels 2 and 3 unlock, providing more intense PvE chaos and different kinds of environments and encounters. Now the way this ties into Gambit Prime is the Reckoning mode will reward you with Gambit-specific armor that not only looks super badass with that chroma-like glow on it, but it was also mentioned that these pieces could roll with top-tier perks on them, so it's not just for the fashion, but these pieces will actually help you out in Gambit and help to define your role in the mode. And the way this was pitched was that there's going to be a Gambit and Reckoning gameplay loop, where you go play Gambit Prime every week to get access to the Reckoning, and then you clear Reckoning to get high-end Gambit loot, and then you take those rewards back into the Gambit Prime mode and kick some ass. I love this concept a lot, actually. I think that this could be expanded upon with this Reckoning mode, and they could add new rewards that aren't centered around Gambit and maybe even new levels, but I won't get my hopes up too much on that. On March 8th, Reckoning Tier 2 unlocks, and 4 days later, the new Gambit Prime map, Deep 6 set in Titan, becomes available. And then we have the Thorn quest and the Allegiance quest, both going live on the 12th. Thorn will definitely be a highlight of this DLC for many, and it's nice to see they're dropping it earlier this time around, and I'm sure this quest will be similar to Last Word, where you'll have to do some grinding and hopefully have to complete a really challenging final mission, maybe in the Reckoning space or something awesome like that. I didn't mind the Last Word quest, but the final mission wasn't exactly the most adrenaline-pumping experience. Now, the Allegiance quest, what the heck is that? Well, originally called Joker's Wild Weekly Quest, this will allow you to, quote, pick between the Vanguard and the Drifter to progress through the quest from their perspective. It will likely be a lore-heavy story questline around the Drifter and the Shadows of Yore, but told from 2 different perspectives, and with this being a character-based quest, it means you can actually experience both of those sides if you do it twice. So I don't expect this quest to be an insanely long one, since Bungie is already expecting people to run it twice, but it is a cool addition and something we haven't seen yet in the series. 10 days after Joker's Wild goes live, we'll get access to the 3rd and final tier of Reckoning, and we'll also get access to a thing called Invitations from the Nine. This was originally called Xur Bounties, which gave everyone the impression it'd be a simple bounty you pick up from Xur to get exotics, but it looks like the name was changed to avoid that confusion, because the invitation is meant to be, quote, an exploration of the Nine and their mysterious place in this universe. You begin by picking up the invitation from Xur on that Friday, and once you complete all the objectives, it will transform into a bounty called Into the Unknown, which is a once per character powerful bounty, similar to the ones you completed early on in Forsaken that required you to complete a Crucible match with a full set of gear. It's that type of bounty. Now they say once per character, but then go and say there will be 9 weeks of collecting new lore and powerful rewards, so since they didn't actually say once per week, it seems like the invitation will be the start of a chain of events that reveals new lore and powerful rewards over the course of those 9 weeks. So similar to like we saw in Black Armory, the story looks like it's going to unfold over the course of this new season, and we're going to learn more about the Nine and the Drifter and all that good stuff. As long as these quests don't require me to return to a vendor after every freaking other step, then I'm in. On the 19th of March, Gambit Prime will be available on the Legion's Folly map of Nessus, and then the Emerald Coast EDZ map a week later. This brings us to April 2nd, where Gambit Prime comes to private matches, which includes those 2 new Gambit Private maps, New Arcadia and Deep 6. So no shocker that the content will be following a similar release formula to Black Armory. It sucks, but they can only make content so fast, and personally, after thinking about it and after taking a break from Destiny and looking back on Black Armory, besides the launch of the DLC, I think there was plenty of stuff to keep me grinding for many hours and was well worth $12. Now on April 9th, a free event for all players arrives called Arc Week. No idea what this is, there's no information on Arc Week yet, so get to speculating because right now it's still a total mystery. Now my only guess for Arc Week would be, let's say they decide to make an entire week where all arc damage from the player is increased by like 500%. So no matter what activity you go into, whether it be a Nightfall or a Strike or a Raid, you can just decimate anything with an arc super or an arc weapon or arc damage, whatever, and maybe even the enemies can do more arc damage to you as well. That's the only idea I got right now. I think just letting people steamroll over anything for an entire week with arc damage is an interesting twist. What isn't as much of a mystery is the Revelry, which is another new free event taking place in the spring from April 16th to May 6th, which sends us back to the Infinite Forest for a revamped Horde mode challenge similar to the Haunted Forest from Festival of the Lost. While this may not be the most exciting part of Season of the Drifter, it's nice that they are still trying to keep the Infinite Forest relevant and didn't completely give up on it. It actually makes perfect sense to use this for new events because the possibilities are kind of infinite. So alongside the annual pass content is the Arc Week free event, the Revelry free event, and with that comes the new additions for our next season of the game, which include the new Vanguard and Crucible Pinnacle weapons, new exotic quest, new triumphs, and your usual Iron Banner new power increase, the whole shebang. Whereas Gambit Prime, Reckoning, Thorne, the Allegiance quest, the Invitation from the Nine, and new lore books and Gambit Prime private matches will all be included in the annual pass. Now that's not all, we also got a tiny little taste of what's coming after Joker's Wild. Season of the Opulence is arriving with the Penumbra DLC, and from the short little clips we got, it looks like it's confirmed that we'll be diving back into the story of Callus and the Leviathan, and it was announced late last year that Penumbra would be bringing a new raid and a new 6-player match-made activity this summer, so I'm unbelievably stoked for that. And when it comes to post-annual pass content, which is something I've been endlessly intrigued in learning more about Bungie's future plans for the game, in this Vidoc, we heard this line.
We're already building plans for how to make the thing comes out after that even better.
There's a thing that comes out after that?
Well, what's the next one?
So who knows what's coming after the annual pass? Maybe Bungie has something in store for us for fall 2019. Maybe something completely different, but I don't know, only time will tell. So how am I feeling about all this? Well, for starters, I was not expecting a new endgame PvE mode alongside Gambit Prime, especially one that involves the Nine. I'm so down for a new difficult PvE challenge that gives me the chaotic Crota's End vibe, and it just looks like so much fun. I think the way it ties into the new Gambit experience is great. It's very refreshing to see that the rewards will actually have high-end perks that can be used in other areas of the game, and Bungie's focus on grinding for a set and then using that in Gambit Prime to excel at your role is a very intriguing concept. I'm always looking for more reasons to grind an activity and to invest time into building up my character, and I mean, come on, who doesn't love that glowing armor? Gambit Prime looks like a ton of fun, and if it does have matchmaking, which I imagine it probably will, it won't be as much fun if you're a solo player going up against the stack, just like in regular Gambit. But I think something that can alleviate a bit of this frustration is the matches being so fast. With only one round, if you're getting stomped, well, it'll be over as quick or even quicker than a Crucible match, so you can move on and try again. Thorne. I don't really have any strong opinions on Thorne, but I'm glad it's back for those who love it, and it makes sense with Season of the Drifter. But I'm someone who prefers new stuff over old, so it won't be as big of a highlight for me as something like The Reckoning, but no doubt it's going to be fun to use in Crucible and just even normal PvE activities as well. The Allegiance quest and the Invitation from the Nine are probably going to be more story-oriented quest lines, which is nice to see they're filling in the gaps and expanding the universe now with the lack of campaigns, which if those were sacrificed in order to spend more time making modes like the Reckoning and the Forges and the new 6-player activity coming this summer, then I'd say it was absolutely worth it. I was worried when I first heard about Joker's Wild that it would be an only Gambit DLC, where that's all you have to do, but this is actually a relief to see not only are they tying in the 9 and giving us a taste of more competitive PvE, but they actually went ahead and gave us a new endgame PvE mode, and for that I'm very happy. I was definitely most worried about Joker's Wild, but with the new Surge bounties and more than one thing to do on day 1, I expect Joker's Wild to be a lot smoother of a launch than Black Armory. Also, I don't want to hear anyone complaining about the difficulty of Reckoning mode because now that you'll be all caught up in terms of power, just let us struggle for a little and have our challenging mode for a few weeks before we can stomp all over it. And finally, I couldn't be happier that Bungie is free from Activision, and I am so eager to know how they're going to handle the series from here on out. You can definitely tell in the Vidoc they are excited for a new chapter of Bungie, and Bungie only, so I can't wait. That's really all I got for you guys today. I can't wait to cover the DLC and the new seasons, so thank you very much for watching, and have a great one.